number 10. This creepy statue is located at the entrance of Stowe Lake. It was built in 1914 to honor the pioneer women of the Old West, and it was placed in Golden Gate Park in the 40s. But this isn't a regular statue. There are a ton of rumors about the statue being able to move on its own, something that it shouldn't be able to do. Witnesses have said that they can see the woman's head move from side to side as if she was looking for something. Maybe she's looking for her missing child. It is also said that she will change her facial expressions, and sometimes she'll distort her face to look like a hideous monster. Sounds like I'll be staying away from this statue. There are also a lot of stories about seeing a phantom shape of a third child statue, but when you go closer to it, it just disappears. Oh, and you can also hear the sounds of evil children laughing if you get too close, so be warned. The tunnels of Chinatown brings us to number 9. Apparently there are a ton of secret tunnels buried deep under Chinatown, and residents of Chinatown use them to get to their hidden opium dens and gambling rooms without being caught. There's been a ton of speculation that these tunnels were once a really shady tourist attraction, while others still say that it's used for illegal activity. But due to an earthquake, it is now believed that these tunnels are now blocked off by fallen debris. But who knows, maybe someone found a way in, so we never know what might be lurking inside of these tunnels. Mary Ellen Pleasant haunts us in at number 8. She was a former slave who came to San Francisco in 1899. Eventually she was able to open up her own restaurant, where she would pick up stock tips from wealthy businessmen who ate there. She was so clever that she was able to use these stock tips to make herself rich. She built a very nice mansion on Octavia Street, where she lived with her business partner and his wife. But here's where things got ugly. She was accused of pushing her business partner down the stairs and killing him. She was pressured to move out of the city, and she quickly lost all of her savings and died a few years later. I mean, talk about bad karma. So now it is said that her spirit haunts the Memorial Park on Octavia and Bush Street. And if you stand on the plaque and politely make a wish, it will be granted. But beware, Mary Ellen Pleasant will throw rocks at your head if you don't show her the proper respect. So make sure when you're making a wish, give some respect. The Pinecrest Diner brings us to number 7. This restaurant sits on the corner of Mason and Gary, and there's a sign that reads, "Best Breakfast in San Francisco." Okay, I couldn't vouch for the food there because I've never been. I've been to San Francisco many times, but if you like your eggs poached, then you should probably never eat there. And that's because this restaurant refuses to make it because of an urban legend that has been circulating around. Apparently a murder took place at this diner in 1997. The cook shot and killed the waitress, and rumors has it that earlier that day, the waitress yelled at the cook for making poached eggs when they aren't even on the menu. According to the legend, the chef was so angry that when he came into work the next morning, he came in with a gun. The cook never admitted that the eggs were the cause of his murdering rampage, but the restaurant refuses to serve them to this day. Up next, number 6, we have the Golden Gate Park Ghost. It is said that if you drive your car through the Golden Gate Park at night, and if you do it with your headlights off, a police officer will pull you over and give you a ticket. However, when you go to pay for the ticket, it will be invalid because the police officer doesn't actually exist. According to the legend, this cop lost his life in the line of duty in this park, but his spirit is still on duty. He roams around the park and approaches people who have committed traffic violations. So even though this is probably just an urban legend, a lot of people in this area said that they've run into him. So it's gotta be real, right? So the next time you find yourself driving in Golden Gate Park at night, you might want to obey by the traffic laws just in case. Or you might be pulled over by this phantom police officer. Golden Gate Bridge moves on to this list at number 5. Since 1937, more than 1,500 suicides have occurred on the Golden Gate Bridge. Police have tried to prevent suicides from happening on this bridge, and they did this by closing pedestrian access after 6:30, and they've even assigned officers to patrol the walkway. But the tormented souls of the dead jumpers continue to haunt this bridge even to this day. It is said that on dark, foggy nights, the spirit can be seen roaming along the walkways while he's searching for their next victim. Witnesses have reported hearing screams and feeling pulled towards the edge of the bridge. Alcatraz Prison brings us to number 4. I've been there, and and it's very eerie. Like, you hear a lot of noises. It's for sure haunted. Well, given the amount of prisoners who spent many years on this lonely, cruel island, there are a ton of angry spirits that are haunting this old prison, and I might be able to attest by that. There are reports of shadowy figures, weird mist, cold spots, and there are a lot of noises in the prison as well. If you visit the prison, you'll hear moaning, sobbing, and screams for help. They can even move objects, and if you're unlucky, you might even feel one of them brush past you. It is also said that you will feel cold chills and feel like something bad is going to happen. And if you value your life, you should never visit 14D. I've done it, and it is terrifying. And that's because an angry spirit is trapped inside of the cell, and if he gets a hold of you, you'll probably never make it out alive. I was able to meet one of the officers who were actually active during the Alcatraz days. Sutro Forest suicides takes us to number 3. Well, it looks like San Francisco has their own version of suicide forest, just like Japan. Even though this forest looks like a beautiful spot to have a picnic, it has a very dark history. Between the years of 1899 and 1908, several bodies were found dead in this forest. This forest is so big and dense that it became an ideal location for people to commit suicide without being seen. Because the forest is so thick, it is believed that there are hundreds of bodies that still have to be found. And according to the local legend, the ghosts of these bodies still linger in the forest, and you can hear bones breaking and whispers if you walk in the forest at nighttime. The Sutro Bath Ruins brings us to number 2. On the west side of San Francisco, on the south side of San Francisco, there are stone ruins that have crumbling stairs and old buildings that are said to be incredibly haunted. The Sutro Baths are said to be cursed, and this belief is still perpetrated today. Those brave enough to enter the cave have reported seeing a strange creature hiding in the cave. There are scratch marks on the walls, piles of animal carcasses, and bones left behind. You can even hear unexplained noises and footsteps echoing throughout the tunnel. And apparently this creature doesn't look like it's from Earth. If that wasn't enough, another urban legend says that this cave was the place where people would perform dark satanic rituals that involved human sacrifices. I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking that we should close off this tunnel and never speak of it ever again. The Lady of the Stowe Lake tops this list at number 1. This lake can be found in Golden Gate Park, and this urban legend is about a mother who took her baby to the park in a stroller in the early 1900s. Well, she stopped at a park bench to rest, and she began chatting to another woman. But she didn't realize that the stroller started to roll away, and it crashed into the lake. Once she realized that her baby was gone, she began to panic as she frantically searched for her baby. The mother was last seen going into the lake, so those people who were brave enough to visit the park at night might run into this devastated mother who is still searching for her baby today. It is said that she now haunts this lake, and she will terrorize people into helping her search for her baby. But be careful, she might even try to pull you into the water herself to try to help search underneath the water for her baby.
Coming in at number 10, we have Alcatraz Island of Evil. I saw Alcatraz from across the water in San Francisco Bay, and I have to say, it is a very freaky place to look at. Before Alcatraz was even a high security prison, Miwok tribes of California were not about the rock. They thought that the sandstone rock that protrudes from the middle of San Francisco Bay was inhabited by evil spirits. When the prison was built on the rock, it became one of the most notorious high security prisons of all time. It's presumed that all who tried to escape the jail were killed. If the fall into the rocky water didn't kill you, the sharks that infested the water might. The prison was infamous for the criminals it hosted, their somewhat inhumane confinement, and the murders that happened within the walls of the jail. Alcatraz stopped functioning as a prison in 1963, but the memories of the building's brutal era live on. In 1946, 3 men were killed in a bloody standoff in Block C. Now these days, National Park employees believe that C Block is haunted. Security hear clanging and dissonant screams at night, and it's reportedly haunted by a troublemaking ghost called Butcher. He was a hitman killed by another prisoner. The most haunted place in the building, however, is allegedly Cell 14D, a solitary confinement hole. Now the hole is said to turn men crazy. Now, criminally insane, to me, is a lot worse than simply being a criminal. It seems that Alcatraz was always an island of evil spirits, but by building a jail there, the United States government added a few more to the mix, whilst damning others to expire there. Coming into number 9, we have the story of the Billywhack Monster. Ah yes, the legend of Billywhack. So this Californian legend goes all the way back to the 1940s, but it is still going strong today. The old Billywhack Dairy building is situated in Santa Paula, in Ventura County. The building was indeed an old dairy and was run by August Rubel, a German national living in the United States. Rumor had it at the time that Rubel had a secret lab under the dairy where he was working with the government to create a super soldier for warfare. In 1943, he had to go back to Germany, which was tricky as he was working for the Allies and war had already broken out. It seems that Rubel was killed by a German landmine and was unable to return to the bivouac dairy. Some years later, a strange creature was reported in the area around the now abandoned dairy. Most of the reports came from students at Santa Paula High School who called police to let them know that their cars were being hit by rocks. Who was throwing the rocks? Apparently a weird looking large animal. Some students even reported being set upon by a large white humanoid looking creature with goat-like horns and razor-sharp claws. It seems something fitting that description terrorized hikers nearby in 1964. It wasn't just the monster causing trouble either. Locals were getting frustrated with the teams of vigilantes turning up to try and hunt the beast. Coming in at number 6, we have the legend of California's skinwalkers. In Navajo culture, a lot of people believe in skinwalkers. Skinwalkers are said to be witches who ascend to their superhuman powers by murdering a close member of their family. These skinwalkers can then take the form of an animal of their choosing, although they usually appear as wolves, owls and coyotes, foxes and crows. These witches are said to be extremely dangerous and you do not want to encounter one for fear of invoking their wrath. These skinwalkers are said to be most commonly found stalking deserts in California, like Death Valley. They are also said to appear in the Mojave National Reserve and Joshua Tree. When Nick Redfern visited Joshua Tree in August 2010 for a VH1 documentary, he said he came across a woman who helped save injured wolves and other animals in the area. Very nice of her. Despite saving the wolves, she was deathly terrified of meeting a skinwalker, so much so that she wouldn't even utter the S word. Coming into number 7, we have Turnbull Canyon. Turnbull Canyon was dubbed the Dark Place by local native tribes, and that nickname has more to it than simply referring to a lack of light. Back then, the native tribes would refuse to set foot there. The place became even darker when Spanish invaders forced natives into the canyon, killing those that fell out of line. Since then, legend says that every Native American killed in the canyon still haunts it today, watching passers-by and waiting for the sun to rise. Many explorers feel watched when they venture out into the canyon. Not only is the canyon haunted by the spirits of the wronged natives, but it is also said to be a hotbed for occult activity. There have been reports of black-robed beings making effigies in the remote area. A string of disappearances around the nearby Puente Hills has been put down to satanic activity in the canyon. To make this a triple whammy of creepy, there is also an abandoned mental asylum in the canyon. Great. Coming in at number 6, we have the legends of Stowe Lake. The White Lady is said to be one of the ghosts of San Francisco, and this particular lost soul is said to haunt the Stowe Lake area of the city. Few are brave enough to walk by Stowe Lake at night, although some zealous youths do find it funny to turn amateur ghost hunters by provoking the spirit. Now the story goes that once upon a time a woman was out walking her baby in a stroller. She became tired and she sat down on a bench next to the lake, taking in the sights. Another lady decided to sit down and join her, and they had a brief chat. While the women chatted, it is said that the stroller rolled away unnoticed, either because its brakes were faulty, or they weren't put on properly, or someone abducted the child. The mother became very distressed and started frantically wandering the area asking if anyone had seen her child. Eventually, she thought the baby must have rolled into the lake, and so she got into the water to look for her. After that, neither mother or child was seen again, and it is presumed that the woman drowned. These days, at night, her ghostly apparition still stalks the area looking for her child. Now, some versions of the urban legend say that you can summon the ghost yourself. Allegedly, if you say, white lady, I have your baby," 3 times over, the lady will appear. She'll then ask you, "Have you seen my baby?" and if you say yes, she'll haunt you, and if you say no, she'll kill you. Coming into number 5, we have the Angel of Bodie. Bodie is one of many Californian ghost towns. As we know, California was at the forefront forefront of the gold rush, but it was also heavy on the silver mining. Bodie had 10,000 residents in 1859 and was thriving in 1894 when little Evelyn Myers was born. Growing up around a mine has its dangers, but as families settled to make their fortunes, this was the life many children in the southwest of the United States came to know. Little Evelyn was nearly 4 years old when she tragically lost her life. Her downfall was her playful curiosity. She liked to follow the miners to work, and she would often land herself in trouble with her parents. One day she followed a miner to work and he sent her back home, but she was sneaky and snuck back to watch him work. Sadly, he didn't know that she was behind him when he swung his pickaxe backwards and crushed her skull. A monument was erected in her honor, and it is now said that her ghost haunts a deserted town. She can be heard laughing and giggling as she skips gleefully around her home. Don't like this one at number 4. We have the story of the charred man of Creek Road. I don't like a ghost at the best of times, but charred ghosts with vacant eye sockets? No thank you, not today. The legend of the Charred Man has been told around Ojai campfires for decades. The Charred Man is said to stalk Creek Road and the Camp Comfort County Park. Many have reported seeing the ghostly apparition of a man on fire with black burned skin and hollow eye sockets. The Charred Man has most commonly been spotted in the Creek Road Bridge. When a car passes the bridge, it is said that he will emerge and glare at passengers. Not only that, he comes with a stench of burning flesh, which is something I've luckily never had to experience. Can only imagine it's truly awful though. It is said that the man leaves an imprint of ash on cars that get too close to him. Coming into number 3, we have the monster of Elizabeth Lake. While Elizabeth Lake in the Antelope Valley may look like heaven, it actually has a hellish legend attached to it. Los Angeles County's largest natural lake could contain a nasty beast. Legend has it that the lake was created by the devil himself, and he placed one of his own pets inside it. If you swim deep enough, you may find a secret passage that leads to the underworld. The lake monster uses this passage to move between Earth and the netherworld. Now, the lake was originally referred to by Spanish settlers as La Laguna de Diablo, the Lake of the Devil. This was because they were convinced of the lurking monster. In the late 1800s, a group of men claimed to have witnessed the ascension of a vast monster with bat wings coming out of the lake. Coming into number 2, we have the story of the Fresno Nightcrawler. The Nightcrawler. Rumors of a strange cryptid walking around at night in Fresno, California began surfacing in the late 90s and early 2000s. There were only a handful of eyewitnesses, and reports were shaky until some strange footage emerged in 2008. CCTV videos seemed to show a strange biped walking around a road. By biped, I mean that was pretty much it. The figure was all legs, walking down the street like dexterous tweezers, or I guess a bit like possessed trousers. I don't like it. I don't like it. The footage is grainy, but definitely strange. Why not have a watch for yourself? Many people think that this strange Nightcrawler is some kind of Fresno monster, but more people out there think it's an alien. Similar cryptids have been spotted in Yosemite and Poland. What is this figure? Is it a puppet? Is it an alien? Is it an undiscovered creature? A ghost? A ghoul? Is the Fresno Nightcrawler real, whatever it may be, or is it a bizarre hoax? I just don't know. Finally, coming into number 1, this actually deeply unsettled me, and this has got more eyewitnesses than any on the list. We have the Dark Watchers of Santa Lucia. The Dark Watchers are a legend in Santa Lucia, California, and were known by Spanish settlers as Los Vigilantes Oscuro. The Watchers are regularly described as tools, sometimes giant-sized, figureless dark silhouettes, often adorned with brim hats or walking sticks. They have been frequently spotted in the Santa Lucia Mountains watching passers-by. Now, the figures are mainly spotted around twilight and dawn. No one has ever seen one up close, and it is said that if a person does ever come close to one, they'll disappear. They've been regularly spotted by walkers, and many believe that if they stay on the path they're on and just keep on going about their business, the Watchers won't bother them. Writer John Steinbeck's son Thomas believed that he saw the Watchers growing up. In the late 1960s, a high school principal reported seeing a tall man with a hat watching him as he led a group hike. When he called out, the figure disappeared. Now, people still report seeing these Watchers to this day. Scientists offer a number of different explanations for the sightings, with some saying that they could be Brocken specters. These happen in certain atmospheric conditions when the sun is at a particular angle. This could explain the whole dawn and dusk thing. Others say they could be fatigue-based hallucinations, but honestly, as people keep spotting them, the legend just keeps on growing. Coming in at number 10, we have the Flying Monkeys of Napa Valley. I've always wanted to visit the Napa Valley because wine. I love wine! People across the world have probably heard or even tasted the Californian wine made here, but most of you probably will never have heard of rebobs, legendary flying monkeys, or robots, or something in between. They are most frequently sighted around Patrick Road outside of Napa itself. Now, according to local law, the rebobs were made by a mad scientist who tried to combine humans with monkeys, although some believe that they're robots created by the government as a distraction from a doomsday bunker they were building nearby. Some say the monkeys hunt teenagers craving young flesh to satisfy their appetites. All pretty wild theories. Coming into number 9, we have the Witch of the Black Diamond Mines. It is said that the Black Diamond Mines of the Mount Diablo coalfield is home to the ghost of a girl named Mary. It seems in the 1870s Mary was a nanny, but several of the children that she cared for died of illnesses or completely unknown causes. Mary was then accused of being a witch by the mining community, who hung her with little semblance of a trial. The town did claim that they found evidence of sorcery rituals at her home, but who knows back then? Honestly, they just burn the witches, except they hung her. What locals do know is that her spirit still haunts the mine to this day, and it is said to be angry. Mary wants revenge, and I kind of understand. Coming into number 8, we have the Smoke of the Claremont. Out in Berkeley, California, there is an old historic hotel called the Claremont. The original hotel was built in the 1800s, but burnt down as a result of a fire. 10 years later, a new Claremont was built and opened. Great, except the smell of smoke has never left. It seems that smoky fragrances waft through the halls late at night. Oh, and if you travel to the 4th floor, you may or may not meet one of the victims of the fire, a little girl who particularly likes to hang out in room 422. Coming into number 7, we have the San Diego Chulapa. It seems that San Diego may be home to a creature in the ilk of the Chupacabra, Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, or the Abominable Snowman. I really like the word abominable. Abominable. Chulapa is said to be a creature that many say they've heard crying late at night. It's said that the beast stalks San Diego and feeds off the weak, including any children it can sink its teeth into, or homeless people unlucky enough to encounter the menace. 30 mysterious deaths seem to have been blamed on the creature. Although that being said, in February 2012, San Diego residents breathed a sigh of relief as they thought that the monster had washed up dead on Mission Beach. Have a little look at the pictures and tell me what you think. Honestly, I hope that there aren't any baby chulapas out there around willing to continue mummy or daddy's work, because that looks horrible. Abominable. Coming in at number 6, we have the Boy of Grouse Lake. I would love to go to Yosemite National Park and do some hiking, but of course the sprawling 3,000 square kilometer park is filled with myths and legends. Ever since the mid-1800s, reports of a wailing sound have been noted around Grouse Lake. It seems that in 1857, Yosemite's first park ranger Galen Clark heard the cries and went to investigate. It seems that Clark kept hearing the noises and thought that it may well be a dog or an animal, so decided to ask a local First Nations tribe if they had lost a dog or any member of livestock. Legend has it that they responded to tell him that actually it was no dog, and under no circumstances should he go near the water. Why? Well, it was haunted by a First Nations boy who had fallen in and drowned. To this day he is said to call out to those who pass by, but if anyone goes into the water to help him or investigate, he will grab their feet and pull them into the lake until they drown, just like he did. Coming into number 5, we have Toys R Us of Sunnyvale. I feel like Toys R Us had bigger issues than a Californian branch store haunting, what with its spate of closures, but nonetheless the Sunnyvale, California location is said to be haunted by a poltergeist. Poltergeist in a kid's shop, honestly I can't think of anything worse. I actually used to work in a massive toy shop in London as a princess, long story, but sometimes we would do sleepovers for kids overnight, and there really is nothing scarier than a toy shop during the darkness, because your imagination kind of runs wild with all of the scenarios in which the toys could come to life and I don't know, bite your ankles. Either way, scary, right? I think it's scary, but just ask the night staff here at this Toys R Us. Now legend has it that the poltergeist came about after kids broke into the store and snatched an Ouija board off the shelves, holding an impromptu seance and accidentally unleashing a spirit. Spooky. Coming into number 4, we have the albinos of Hicks Road. It seems that Hicks Road in San Jose is a strange place with an even stranger legend attached to it. Locals believe that the road, which runs between Los Gatos and Twin Creeks, is haunted not by ghosts but by so-called hostile albinos. Rumours of the clan began circulating in the 1970s, and it is said that they are violent to passers-by and will stop cars and attack people with improvised weapons. There aren't accounts of them murdering anyone, just generally displaying hostility and creepy behaviour. The legend says that they eat roadkill, and they have been spotted dragging away dead deer into the hills. Coming into number 3, we have Haunted Disneyland. Disneyland California opened in 1955 in Anaheim. I actually went twice with Landon and Danny 2 and 3 years ago. Here's a picture of us along with Michael McCrudden and Charlotte Dobre of I.O. We're having a lovely time. It's a good time. There are balloons. Despite it being the Magic Kingdom, the park is filled with urban legends. The most enduring is that actually Disneyland is haunted by the ghost of none other than Walt Disney himself, who is said to stalk the park at night. He's also said to regularly visit his old apartment above the fire station on Main Street. It is also said that the It's a Small World ride is haunted, with the dolls moving and switching places with others. Some say that the haunted house actually is haunted, not by one of the ghosts that it looks like are kind of there, but by a little boy. Apparently his ashes were scattered or something along those lines. Others say that the Secret Club 33 is the Illuminati headquarters. Honestly, Disneyland is so filled with urban legends, we've made a whole video about it, so you should check that out. Coming into number 2, we have the legend of the Black Dahlia. The death of Elizabeth Short was no legend, it actually happened. In 1947, the budding 23-year-old starlet was found cut in half and severely mutilated. Her killer had drained her blood and scrubbed her body clean and then laid it out meticulously. The case totally stumped the LAPD, with the lead investigator Brian Carr saying, "I just can't imagine someone doing that to another human being." The murder was front page news for months, and Elizabeth's connection with Hollywood made it glamorous in a very macabre way. The killer was never found, and her death is one of the oldest cold cases in LA. It was after she died that the rumours and the legends were born. Some say she was a high-class escort killed by a lover. Some say she was involved with a satanic cult, and various news outlets had elaborated opinions on what had happened to her body. I guess we can't really go into it too much, but some think that she was covered in cigarette burns, and others say they think that she was forced to eat her own feces. Ugh. Somehow she was dubbed the Black Dahlia, and books were written about her. A 2006 movie was made about her starring Scarlett Johansson and Mia Kirshner. Finally, coming into number 1, we have the cursed Hotel Cecil. Some say that all 600 rooms of the Cecil Hotel are cursed. The building has now been rebranded the Stay on Main to avoid associations with its dubious past. The Black Dahlia herself was said to have drunk at the hotel before she met her grisly demise. There is a whole Wikipedia page about deaths and violence at the Cecil Hotel, and on a quick glance I count 16 grisly incidents, and those are just the reported ones. Many of the stories involve suicide by jumping from the top of the building, others involve poison. The hotel was also said to be the home of serial killers Richard Ramirez and Jack Unterweger. The hotel made headlines in 2013 when a Canadian tourist, Elisa Lam, went missing after staying there. A video was posted of her from an elevator security camera by police, as this was the last time she was seen alive. Now the video is actually very scary to watch. She's seen acting exceptionally strangely, very strangely indeed. She presses a number of the buttons in the elevator and the doors fail to close. She's seen peering out of the elevator and looking really scared. She's then seen trying to hide in the corner. She then exits the elevator and seems to be pleading with someone invisible outside of the door. The footage ends with her walking out of shot and the elevator door opening and closing a number of times. On the 19th of February, her body was found by hotel maintenance workers who had come to investigate issues with the hotel water pressure. Now it seems that she was dead in the water tank and had been dead for weeks. The water tank was used for drinking and bathing water for other hotel guests, so blech. What happened to Alyssa, and is the hotel cursed? I'm gonna go with, I don't know, Sounds like it.
Starting us off at number 10 is Suicide Bridge. Starting off strong, you know how I am. Built in 1912, the Pasadena, Colorado Street Bridge is a scenic drive. It's on a riverbed, it has lamps, there's an old charm about it that makes it romantic almost, but it's also the site of many atrocities. Over 100 horrible suicides have taken place at the bridge that the bridge is actually called Suicide Bridge by most. It garnered such a reputation that in 1993 they installed a suicide barrier on the bridge to try and lower the numbers. The stories of the suicides are also very hard to digest. In 1937, Myrtle Ward took her 3-year-old daughter to the bridge after her husband left her. She threw her daughter off the bridge and then leaped herself, but thankfully her daughter landed in a few thick branches which slowed her descent and left her unharmed, but Myrtle plummeted to her death. Many have seen her ghost on the bridge and in the riverbed below, forever looking for her daughter. Another story is more recent, taking place in 2008, where a man stabbed and killed his wife and grandmother and then killed himself. And that was only 2 stories out of countless ones I could have told you. So of course, with that much death going on there are that many ghosts. Many spirits haunt the bridge, including a man wearing glasses and a woman that continuously keeps mimicking her fall off the bridge. Homeless people camping under the bridge have reported hearing eerie cries and sounds at night, and the ghost of a man who whispers her fault to anyone that walks by, obviously referring to whoever drove him to take his own life, but no one knows who he's talking about. Coming in at number 9 is Alien Blood. I actually read about this story a few years ago and I didn't realize how much of a lasting impact it left on California, but evidently I guess it did. Back in 1984 at Riverside General Hospital, a woman called Gloria Ramirez was admitted to the ER to have her blood drawn, but as soon as it was drawn, the foulest smell filled the room and her skin started becoming oilier and oilier. Then, like flies, the medical staff started dropping, half started passing out, while the other half lost complete control of their limbs. 5 members ended up being hospitalized and 1 even spent 2 weeks in intensive care. The weird occurrence affected over 24 members of staff, which left a skeleton crew to try and save her life. They failed and she died 40 minutes later. Until this day, no one has any idea what happened or what it was about her blood that took down 23 people. They dub it the legend of the alien blood that poisoned the hospital. And to me, I feel like science has a lot of answers for a lot of things, but when something comes up that they can't answer and nearly 40 years later they still can't answer it, that's worrying. At number 8 we have the Lady in White, because every urban legend video would not be complete without at least one ghostly lady wearing white. Hailed as one of the most famous Californian urban legends, the legend is about the thing that probably makes California famous, the Hollywood sign. The sign has been the backdrop of countless Instagrams and movies and is said to be haunted by Peg Entwistle, a famous actress from the early 1900s. That's so Hollywood, isn't it? An actress haunting the sign. It came full circle almost. Anyway, the legend goes like this. After an excruciatingly harsh review of one of her movies, one people dubbed a career-ending review, she decided she couldn't take the thought of her career ending, and so she decided to end her life instead. She climbed to the top of the H in the sign and threw herself off of it. So based on that, many people claim a lady in white can be seen hiking in the off-limits area near the sign around the place she killed herself. But if you find yourself up there and are hoping to see a beautiful actress, you'd be quite wrong. What appears is an eerie woman with hollowed out eyes and a skeletal face. If she finds you there alone, she can influence you to follow in her footsteps and end your life as well. In the century that followed her suicide, many suicide cases have been reported in the area, and in 2012 police even found a man's mutilated body parts and decapitated head right where she killed herself. Filling our number 7 slot is the prop of New Pike. So Elmer McCurdy was a famously notorious outlaw who died in the early 1900s. In 1911, his embalmed corpse became a sideshow act through Texas for people who wanted to come and gawk at the criminal and his displayed body. Or rather, his body traveled all over America, eventually landing itself in Long Beach, California. There, his body was mistaken for a prop and was hung in a fun house at New Pike Amusement Park. The truth was only discovered in 1976 when a film crew tried to adjust him and ended up dislodging his arm. Imagine going into that funhouse as a kid expecting mildly scary props and then coming face to face with a real corpse. I'd never go to an amusement park again. Legit I wouldn't. Now at number 6 is Old Stage Road. Now Old Stage Road is located in Salinas and it's been the site of horrible deaths, gang-related deaths, lynchings, and a Japanese concentration camp was even located there during the wartime. So due to all that death, countless ghosts and spirits do haunt the road. But this specific story comes from Redditor Moonriver7811, who said his aunt told him a story of when she was young and pregnant. Her and her husband decided to take some back roads as a shortcut and ended up on Old Stage paved road. She was looking out the window for a while and she suddenly saw a woman. The woman was keeping pace with the car and just turned her head to look at his aunt, and what she saw scarred her for life. The skin of the woman was so pale it looked almost transparent. Her hair was like white hay. She seemed almost 100 years old. But it wasn't even her appearance that freaked his aunt out, it was the hatred and anger she could see in her eyes. The uncle stepped on the gas and they managed to get rid of her, and the user decided after hearing the story he should also go to the road as well with his friends at 3 AM drunk. The friends went there and stopped near Hangman's Tree and decided to walk on the road, not stay inside the safety of their car. Very stupid mistake, kids. One of the friends decided to pee on the tree, douchebag move, and it's not surprising that pissed off spirits after that. They got back into the car and were switching between CDs when they heard a loud "Get Out" on the radio. After hearing it and realizing it was none of them, they drove for their lives. Half a mile later, one of the friends in the back who had been asleep the whole time screamed, saying she'd had the worst nightmare. She never remembered going back into the car and said she was walking down the street and turned around and saw that the car wasn't there anymore. All of a sudden, an old lady with rotten teeth and claws tried to bite her, and that's when she woke up. Despite the road being old as hell, murders still continue to happen on and around it. Coming in at number 5 is Bigfoot. It's like the most well-known urban legend of all time. I'd argue it was maybe even the first one. But anyway, coming in second to Washington, California has the most reported Bigfoot sightings in the US. The creature, which is said to be a giant hairy human ape creature of sorts, is said to live in the wilderness. Yosemite National Park is said to be the most haunted national park in America because it was Bigfoot's first home. Campers have apparently seen it wander into their camps, to which of course they've screamed and ran away. The weirder part is that Bigfoot has been said to scream louder and run too, which is a bit cute, I'm not gonna lie. In 1962 on Mount Shasta, a woman claimed to have seen Bigfoot give birth, which A, I didn't even know it was a female, and B, now we have a mini Bigfoot on our hands. But I guess that was nearly 80 years ago, so it's probably adult Bigfoot now. Either way, I honestly feel like it's a harmless creature, so why don't we just leave the poor thing alone? It's not harming anyone. I mean, it hasn't harmed anyone yet. At number 4 are the Gates of Hell. A deserted road in Antioch called Empire Mine Road has a gate on its side that locals call the Gates of Hell. And at first glance, it honestly looks like a rundown graffitied gate, and most people wouldn't even notice it driving by, but driving by won't do anything to you. It's crossing in the gates that could hurt you. The first legend about the gates is about an insane asylum that it used to be the entrance to. And it was one of those horror movie asylums. I'm talking straitjackets, lobotomies, shock treatments, the whole shebang. Because of that, many believe the ghosts of deceased patients stalk the area, and some even suffer from the same illness that they had in real life. And the spirits around asylums are usually angrier than ones found elsewhere, and if you cross the gate, you could very well be attacked by one of the ghosts. One group of explorers felt rocks being pelted at them, and when they got back into their car, they felt a giant creature leap onto the hood. The second legend is that it was a slaughterhouse that sat near the gates, and that the spirits haunting it are of the animals. But the slaughterhouse was also home to a horrific murder that happened in 1995. A man came running and screaming out of the slaughterhouse, head to toe dripping in blood, claiming his girlfriend had stabbed him. Before medics could get to him, he died. So there is a lot of bad energy radiating around this gate. Filling our number 3 slot is the statue. A girl named Jessica was babysitting for a rich family in California, so you can well imagine that the house was massive with rooms upon rooms inside. During the night in question, the parents went out for a movie, and so the dad told Jessica once the kids are asleep, she could go watch TV in the living room. And that wasn't a nice move so she could be entertained, it was so she wouldn't wander and snoop around the house. The kids go to bed and Jessica starts watching TV. I mean, she tries watching it but can't ignore the clown statue in the corner of the room. Even though she found the statue a bit out of place in line with the other decor, she let it go, but after a while it started freaking her out so much that she had to call the dad. She asked him if she could switch rooms because the clown statue was freaking her out. The father replied saying get the kids and leave the house and call the police. She started asking him why, but he told her to just shut up and do it now. She ended up getting the kids and going to the neighbors and calling the police. But she later ended up calling the dad. He said they didn't have a clown statue and that the children had been complaining of a clown watching them sleep, but they assumed it was just a nightmare. Listen to your kids, people, listen to your kids. It's so funny, I've heard so many variations of this legend, but I had no idea it originated in California. Now at number 2 is the mass murder. Now this is an urban legend that circulates in California every year around Halloween. The legend has been around for decades, but it really only gained traction in the social media age. Yay for Twitter. and mass murder. The legend starts with a photo from 1962 of a bunch of masked figures posing for what seems like a Halloween party picture. Everyone's in a white face mask, but the figure in the middle is in a black hooded one. Legend has it moments after the photo was taken, the black hooded figure locked all the doors to the party and then went and killed 7 of the party members before escaping from the scene. No one has any idea who the man is, and the only thing ever found about the case was the mask itself. Ugh, I just don't like people in masks on Halloween from way back when, like their masks were so scary. And these days dressing up for Halloween isn't scary, but back then it actually was. And finally, at number 1 are the witches. East Bay's Black Diamond Mines are one of the scariest places in California. At the end of the 1800s, early 1900s, the area was a thriving coal mining community, and the people who lived there are still buried in the Rose Hill Cemetery. There are so many ghost stories surrounding the mines, but the most popular one is a story of Sarah Norton and Mary. Sarah was a widow who married Noah Norton, and it was widely known that she was a witch. One day her services were called for in the town of Clayton, but on the way there she was thrown out of her buggy and killed. In life, she was a very religious, pious woman who emphasized how she didn't want a funeral, yet the locals of Somerville felt she was owed one. The day of her funeral, a terrible storm hit the town and it was delayed. The following day, another storm hit, but this time the town's livestock also came charging through it. The townspeople realized that this all could have been Sarah's spirit telling them she didn't want a funeral under any circumstances. Since then, her ghost has been seen floating around town, but mostly lurking in Rose Hill Cemetery. Now on to Mary. It was a very common name back then, as you can well imagine, so we don't know what her last name was, but her occupation was being a nanny. But strangely enough, every single child she cared for ended up dying, and so the town accused her of witchcraft. And usually in these witchcraft cases, an innocent person is accused, but with Mary, they actually found evidence of her sorcery rituals. She was hung soon after and is said to be seen near the mines wearing full white. Honestly, what is it with ghosts and wearing white? Like, is it symbolism? What does it mean? Someone tell me.
Getting us scared in at number 10 is John Soden and his house in Los Angeles. It's time to brace yourselves because this story is pretty dark. Back on January 15th, 1947, a woman's body was found on this lot. Her murder became one of the most reported murders of the time because of the gruesome way in which her body had been found. She was surgically cut in half from the waist down, washed, cleaned, and posed by her killer. Residents who have since lived there have reported hearing strange noises, such as the dragging of heavy chains, heavy footsteps, and voices calling their name. It's actually a really nice looking house, but it is full of negative energy, and it is also believed that anyone who steps foot in this house will be cursed. So, you know what? I'm good at just admiring the architecture from like Google Maps. I don't even have to see it in real life. The Queen Mary ship creeps onto this list at number 9. I had to include this one on this list because people technically did live on this ship, and it is referred to as one of the most haunted ships in America. It was operated since the 1930s, but now it is permanently docked in Long Beach, California, and it is used as a hotel. As nice as this might sound, while guests on board will often experience sleepless nights, there have been a bunch of scary paranormal activities reported on this ship. Guests will say that they will hear creepy kid laughter in the middle of the night, or things will be flown across the room. And room B340 has been taken out of rotation after there's been numerous violent poltergeist activities. It's actually impossible to keep someone in that room for the entire night because they will just get scared away. For me, I would probably last a minute. Probably not even that long. Up next, number 8, we have the Stanley Warehouse. This is a notorious haunted house that has a long reputation of being one of the most haunted places in Orange County. One of the most talked about frightening ghosts that live here is the previous owner. During her golden years, she was unable to climb up the stairs, so after her death, she is known to appear in spirit on the staircase, blocking others from going up. Visitors have reported that they found it difficult or even impossible to get past her and go up the stairs. Oh, and let's not forget about the spirit of an old man who you can hear whispering nasty and offensive things while you sleep. And if you visit the house, you will be able to hear a baby crying upstairs, but when you go into the nursery, no one is there. That would freak me out. I think I would want to visit this house just to see if I can make it upstairs, but you'll never convince me to sleep there. I mean, I just value my life way too much, and I gotta find out what happens next on Bachelor in Paradise. Moving into number 7, we have the Battery Point Lighthouse. This is an iconic lighthouse located in Crescent City, California, and it was built back in 1856. There has been numerous reports of strange and creepy occurrences happening there. Lighthouse workers and guests say that they have heard what sounded like someone wearing large boots stomping around. There have also been reports of items moving, cold spots, and the feeling that someone was touching them when no one was even there. Apparently there are 3 ghosts that haunt this lighthouse, because one just isn't enough. No one seems to know who they are or why they are haunting this place. All I know for sure is that we should just board up the place and just leave it alone, just forget about it. Every now and again a visitor will feel someone tapping on their shoulder, or furniture will move by itself. I mean, that is definitely not okay, and definitely you don't want to be there on a stormy night. Bad things are said to happen there when it rains. The Whaley House haunts us in at number 6. This house was built on an old site where the public executions used to occur. So yeah, I would say this place is pretty damn haunted. Over the years, many descendants of the Whaley family lived and died in that house, and when the house was being restored, workers and visitors began to notice strange and mysterious sounds, sightings, smells, and encounters. A lot of people reported hearing scary noises and loud footsteps that left footprints. You can actually visit this house and take a tour, but I'd rather not. I'd rather spend my time at Disneyland, where I know it's 100% safe and not too scary, or is it? This place is littered with scary ghosts, and a lot of unsettling things have happened there. I'm getting the chills just thinking about it, so I gotta move on. Let's move on, let's see what we have next. Well, you know what? The Red House jumps into number 5 next on our list. This is an old abandoned house that is occupied by a vengeful spirit. Back in the beginning of the 20th century, an engaged couple used to live here. Well, on the night before their wedding, they had a huge fight, and the man pushed his fiancée down the stairs. She died, and he buried her in the backyard. Well, today, she has been seen haunting the house and nearby businesses. People have reported that she is wearing her wedding dress that is covered in blood. Is it her own blood? And local legends say that if you step in front of her, she'll rush forward and drag you to her gravesite, and you will never be seen again. Okay, I don't think I'm going to be visiting this creepy thing anytime soon, or any of these haunted houses on this list. I'm just not brave enough. Like I told you, I hear wind and I run. I see something just a bit bigger than a chihuahua and I run. Okay, the Glen Tavern Inn creeps us in at number 4. This house was built in 1911, but don't be fooled by its beautiful exterior. This house has a very ugly past. Back during the Prohibition, they converted the 3rd floor into a speakeasy, brothel, and gambling den. And one of the most infamous rooms is room 307, which is said to be haunted by 2 ghosts. The amount of paranormal activity here is very high. Visitors said that they saw children running through the halls, and some say that they've seen an angry man and a one-eyed female. There are also reports of the spirits playing the piano in the middle of the night, and others have said that their stuff was stolen. There have also been a lot of deaths that have occurred in this room. A cowboy was shot to death, and a woman was beheaded and left in a closet. So needless to say, this place has a lot of angry and vengeful spirits. Las Coches Adobe makes it onto this list at number 3. This might be one of the most terrifying places in California, and you know what's even more terrifying? The fact that I probably pronounced it wrong. This building is located on an old mine site, however it was covered up because on one horrific day, an accident occurred in the mine and about 30 workers were trapped inside. All of them lost their lives, so it's no wonder that this place is haunted. Locals and visitors have said that they heard the screams of the trapped miners echoing from the property, and there are also numerous reports of a lady in black and a male phantom walking around the grounds. Some people have even said that they've seen the ghost of a hanging man from a tree. And then we have the dark force. Locals say that this force is strong enough to throw you to the ground, and then you can feel heavy footsteps walking on your back, preventing you from getting up. There are a bunch of people who have said that they will never step foot in this place again, and I'm one of them. I don't blame them. Number 2, we have the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose. Since it was built in 1884, the mansion is said to be haunted by ghosts who were killed with Winchester rifles. Construction began in 1884 and never stopped until the owner died in 1992. The owner believed that her house was haunted by victims, and the only way to keep them quiet was to keep on building. The building was opened by the public in 1923, and the staff and the visitors have reported seeing mischievous spirits who liked to torment them. So yeah, don't be fooled by this beautiful house, because it is actually full of ugly surprises and scary ghosts lurking in every corner. But for those of you guys who are either brave or really naive, well, you can actually take a tour there and see all of the ghosts and scary paranormal activities for yourself. Alcatraz tops this list at number 1. Prisons are often the site of restless spirits and hauntings, and Alcatraz is no exception to that. This prison was the site of violent activities, and it housed some of the most dangerous criminals in the world. Alcatraz is actually a breeding ground for the paranormal. One of the most feared presence on the island is known as the Thing. This creepy spirit has red glowing eyes, and it has been recently seen by visitors and also by the prison staff when Alcatraz was in operation. Other common reportings are of creepy voices, sobbing, screaming, and the banging of cell doors. Some have even said that they felt as if they were being touched, felt cold, and they even had an emotional outburst of either sadness or anger just out of nowhere.
Madonna Inn. When you travel somewhere, you might want to stay in a place that is super chill and close to all the tourist traps, so you can just shut your brain off and spend some money without worrying about anything for a few days. But not me. I want to go to some sketchy hole in the wall and party with the locals and wake up in a weird place and have to retrace all my steps to find my passport so I can eventually get back home. Basically, I love to live the hangover every time I travel. Well, the Madonna Inn tucked away in San Luis Obispo is this kind of place. This hotel has such a trippy vibe. It looks like a place that would make Tim Burton cream in his pants. I wouldn't be surprised if while staying there, instead of leaving you a chocolate on your pillow, it would just be a faded picture of Salvador Dali. This seems like the kind of place where the ghosts are always well dressed and super polite, even though they know they're dead. Number 9, the Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula. This place is known as one of the most haunted spots in California. I know I say that a lot in these videos, and I have no idea how a place becomes one of the most haunted places in California. Is there like an official board that makes these decisions, or is it based on how many times someone pees their pants from getting too drunk but then blames it on ghosts? Well, this place was built in 1911 and it was a hot spot for a minute. It was known for many celebrities coming through, and it had very extravagant parties. But after the buzz passed, the Glen Tavern Inn ran into some hard times, and they did what any good business owner does when things get rough. They started selling booze illegally, they opened a brothel, and started an illegal gambling ring. These guys really knew how to party. Now the building is more of a tourist attraction. Some people come there to visit to see if the ghost stories are actually real. Number 8, Peggy Sue's Dinosaur Park. Only in America can you find a place that is half diner, half dinosaur park. I feel like this is the ultimate mix of never growing up and realizing that you actually have to grow up. When Peggy Sue was a kid, she probably was like, when I grow up, I want to work at Jurassic Park. And then she grew up and was like, screw it, I'm gonna make my own Jurassic Park, but I still gotta pay rent. This is a great spot to stop if you're burning some rubber from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. You can stop at this spot to grab some greasy roadside food, while also wondering how someone could afford to get a bunch of metal dinosaurs made on a diner owner's budget. It's kind of inspiring in a way. Don't let anyone tell you what to do. You can do anything you want, because there are people out there doing some crazy stuff that you don't even know about. Number 7, Salton Sea. This place literally had something similar to the entire rise and fall of a civilization. In 1905, the Colorado River flooded and filled up a nice little area in California. In the 1950s, this became a major travel destination. There was a massive lake that people would love to come to. The place was teeming with life. There were fish in the lake, babes on the beach, and hot dogs in every hand of every red-blooded American that would come through for a good time. The only problem is that the lake didn't have a runoff, so eventually it became so salty that all the fish died, and then the lake straight up evaporated. Of course, with no lake and only a bunch of dead fish lying around in the sun, everyone stopped coming. Now if you go there, the place is a straight up ghost town. All there is to see is boarded up windows and the sting of salt on your sunblock creased skin. Hey, maybe if this whole global warming thing keeps going, this place will be amazing again. Stay positive. Number 6. The International Banana Museum. Sticking around this area, one of the main tourist attractions around this dried up lake was the International Banana Museum. Honestly, this is an amazing business model. It would be pretty hard to make a banana museum in the city. There's too much going on. You're competing with major sports teams and famous bands coming through. If you put it in the middle of nowhere and you're the most interesting thing for 250 miles, you might also be one of the only bathrooms. This way people have to come visit you, even if it means they're just doing it to survive because they got lost in the desert. Also, how many things could you put in a banana museum? This one's green, this one's brown. The yellow ones are way too rare, so we just put up a picture. I kind of want to go and just spend a bunch of money on some worthless stuff in the gift shop. I would love a shirt that says, "Why don't bananas snore?" Because they don't want to wake up the rest of the bunch. Number 5, the Rockahula Water Park. So I don't know if you guys know this, but California is a desert. So what is there a lot of in a desert? Well, basically everything except for living creatures and water. So you thought it was a good idea to build a water park in the middle of a desert. Where is the water gonna come from? Is the water park just supposed to get moisture out of the air like Frozone? This one just seems like a dumb idea. And that's why it went out of business in the 1960s. But you know what's even dumber? Someone spent millions of dollars trying to rejuvenate and reopen the thing in the 90s. The dude in charge was like, you know what would be a great investment? That thing that just lost millions of dollars a few decades ago. That's like someone investing in Toys R Us 20 years from now. Now what ended up happening? Well, someone slipped because it's a water park and they sued the park for millions, and that was the end of that. I would invest my retirement in classic Pokemon cards before I spent millions of dollars on a water park in the middle of the desert. Number 4. East 8 Mile Road, Stockton. More haunted places. The East 8 Mile Road is said to be one of the most haunted places in California. I bet if I said I could hear footsteps in my home, I could get on a most haunted list. I would just leave out the part that it's my roommate walking up and down the stairs. But all my sass and sarcasm aside, this place has some creepy stories about it. Apparently the road is haunted by a witch who will walk along the roadside in tattered clothes. If you drive past her and then look back for a second peek, you'll see her in your back seat. Yeah. No thanks. I know I make fun of all this haunted stuff, but the last thing I want is a witch ghost trying to hitchhike without asking. I only have one good pair of jeans, and I don't need to piss in them. Number 3. North Bloomfield Ghost Town. This town was built back in the day when people were trying to strike it rich with the gold rush. Miners from far and wide would come all over to try and live out the dream of becoming a rich man just off a bunch of rocks. I guess that's how people will look back on people who are trying to make it big off of YouTube videos. Geez, how lame all those people are gonna look. Now what ended up happening is none of the people got rich and everyone went home and probably got divorced. But then there was a second gold boom with hydraulic tools, and the second time around, people got lucky. They built a town, and of course the gold rush ended, and now all that is left is a creepy shell of a city. It's a straight up ghost town, just like the other place. All the pictures of this place look like The Village from that movie, The Village. I need to find a better way to describe things. Number 2, Mono Lake. At first glance, this place looks absolutely breathtaking. It looks like a place you could have a first date and then propose and then roll around on the beach having sex all in the same night. The reason I've decided to put this natural aphrodisiac on the list is because inside the lake there are bacteria that are 760,000 years old. Not only that, the bacteria that are in the lake have a string of DNA that for the longest time no one could identify. There were alien bacteria, and I'm pretty sure this is how Invasion of the Body Snatchers starts. The water in the lake was very rich in arsenic. And what scientists have found is that the bacteria in the lake used arsenic to construct the missing parts of their DNA, and that's why they were hard to identify. But people who are big into conspiracy theories think that this is proof that aliens landed down on our planet. Whoa. Number 1 on the list, the glass beach of Fort Bragg. This is probably the only time pollution has done something cool. The glass beach of Fort Bragg was caused of years and years of people throwing their glass waste into the ocean. Now all of it comes barfed out in these cool little polished pellets. People from all over the world come to the beach to try and collect them. It takes forever for the ocean to polish one of these pieces of glass, and with so many tourists coming around from the world to come and collect them, one day these things will be extremely rare. Hopefully, because I hope we stop polluting. That being said, please don't throw your glass garbage into the ocean.